Hey, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for coming to the Plant Tuff Field Day. We're here to talk about Plant Tuff Fertilizer. When's the last time you in agriculture heard about a new nutrient that you can apply to your crop? A new nutrient that's going to help you achieve the yield goal that you have targeted for the specific variety and crop you're planting. You already plant some of the best varieties available, you use the best pesticides to help you achieve your yield target, but you're not quite getting there. What element is going to help you get to that next level of yield? Well, we believe it's Plant Tuff Fertilizer with silicon. You're going to hear today about silicon, the benefits that it brings. You're going to hear about the other things that Plant Tuff can do for your crop. And you're going to hear about the way Plant Tuff is going to help you achieve the yield goals that you have targeted. Plant Tuff is what we call a 3-in-1 fertilizer. The first thing about Plant Tuff is it's a proprietary, custom blended fertilizer. It's registered in the state of Michigan as a fertilizer, and we guarantee that it has 23% calcium, 4% magnesium, it has 14% iron, 1.8% manganese, and 4% silicon. All those numbers are going to make a lot of sense as we start talking about Plant Tuff and what it's going to be able to do for your crop. When we look at silicon, silicon is what's today classified as a beneficial nutrient. It's beneficial because it promotes the growth of a select number of crops, but until today it's been thought that it wasn't required in an essential way by all plants. You're going to hear today from the USDA about how that is changing, though, in that silicon is going to be considered an essential nutrient for plant growth. When you look at Plant Tuff Fertilizer, Plant Tuff, as I mentioned, has 4% silicon. And silicon is known as a stress manager. The biggest yield robber you have is stress from high temperature, from insects, from diseases, and from drought-type conditions where you don't have enough water to have a healthy growing crop. Silicon helps take away that type of stress and helps your plant handle that stress better so it can achieve the yield goals. How does that work? When a plant takes up silicon that's applied to the soil, it takes it up first into the roots on a soil application, and it stores that silicon in the roots. When you've got a crop that is known as an SI accumulator or a silicon accumulator, such as corn, wheat, and even soybeans, these SI accumulators take that silicon from the roots and move it up to the parts of the plants that are under stress. For example, if you've got diseases that are coming into your crop, the silicon will move to the leaves where the diseases are going to be attacking your plant, and they'll actually form a barrier. And that's that Plant Tuff shield that we talk about, that tough shield effect. The silicon actually forms a shield around the cells and makes it more difficult for the disease organism to attack the cell and spread the disease throughout the plant. It's what we call an armoring effect. The silicon almost armors the plant. So we get a shielded plant, a plant that's shielded with the silicon, wrapping itself around the cell of the plant leaves. The other thing we've noticed is that when you put a plant under stress from low moisture conditions or high temperature conditions, the way silicon works in that type of situation is it actually coats the stomates, so the stomata of a plant leaf. That's where the moisture leaves the plant. That's where the moisture control is really regulated within the plant. So we get a thicker stomate, which reduces the evapotranspiration of the plant, and it helps the plant stand up to the stresses that a drought would bring on or high temperatures bring on for a plant. So we've got this armoring effect on the plants that are treated with silicon. Other things that we're noticing is silicon not only works physiologically within the plant cell, as we talked about coating the plant, it also works mechanically in the plant. It makes for a tougher plant, a plant that stands up more erect. The leaves stand up more erect so they can intercept more sunshine, and that more interception of sunshine means you have a higher chlorophyll content and improved photosynthesis with the plant. In the case of corn or the wheat plots that we're here, the wheat resists lodging because you've got a stiffer stalk and a much stronger stalk. Same for corn. It resists strong winds. You're not going to get any snapping off of the corn stalks, so you get a much tougher plant, a plant that stands up to those stresses. So we've talked about physiologically what the silicon can do from a stress management perspective. We've talked about the mechanical improvement of the plant, especially in the grass-type crops like corn and wheat. As I mentioned, you get a plant that's much more resistant to the lodging. Silicon is also active in the soil. It helps to regulate some of the nutrients that are present in the soil and some of the toxic metals that might be present in the soil. So silicon is a sequestering agent, and it actually sequesters some of those heavy metal toxins that are present in the soil and some of the toxic nutrients that might be present in the soil. So we also protect the plant in that fashion as well. So what you see is silicon offers many benefits for the plant. Helps it manage stress, helps it make a more mechanically a tougher plant to withstand the stresses, and it also works in the soil to make a healthier soil that's going to help you produce a better crop. The other thing we want to talk about with Plant Tuff is the second part of it, and that is the nutritional aspects that go beyond the silicon addition. When you're putting on a ton of Plant Tuff material, for example, as I mentioned, it's got 1.4% manganese. So when you're putting on 1 ton per acre, you're putting on 28 pounds of manganese, all for the price of the Plant Tuff. So with those 28 pounds, if you're rotating from wheat into soybeans, that's a great application to go in the fall after you've removed your wheat before you plant the soybeans in the spring. The 28% manganese is going to help you improve the nodulation of the soybeans, and manganese is required for improved nitrogen fixation. So by putting on those 28 pounds of manganese, you're helping that soybean fix as much nitrogen as it can to improve the yield opportunities that a soybean plant might have. Along with that, with the manganese, I mentioned the calcium. Because of the type of product we are a calcium silicate fertilizer that is readily available in the soil. The calcium becomes available to the plant almost immediately. And when you look at what silicon does, making a tougher plant, a tougher cell, calcium has that same type of activity in a plant. So you've got a kind of a 1-2 punch. You've got the calcium also making for a stronger cell wall, helps plant resist diseases. It also helps the plant resist the insect infestations, much like silicon, and it also makes for a much more erect plant as well. So between the calcium and the silicon, physiologically you've got healthier plants that are standing up to the stress, and mechanically you've got a stronger plant that's going to resist lodging. So we've talked a little bit about the silicon, the calcium component, the manganese component, and we also have iron. Iron that's available for the plant when it's required.